The 2025 Rugby League World Cup is in doubt after France pulled out of hosting the event due to financial concerns. The French government could not guarantee the funding for the risk of loss in case of another pandemic or other unforeseen circumstances. This has left the International Rugby League scrambling for a replacement host, with Australia and New Zealand being mooted as possible options. Australia and New Zealand have a strong rugby league tradition and have co-hosted the World Cup before, in 2017. They also have experience in hosting major sporting events, such as the Cricket World Cup and the Rugby Union World Cup. However, there are some challenges and drawbacks to choosing them as the new hosts for 2025. One of the challenges is the timing of the tournament. The 2025 World Cup was scheduled to take place in October-November, which coincides with the Southern Hemisphere summer and the peak of the cricket season. This could create a clash of interests and audiences, as well as logistical issues with venues and broadcasting rights. Moreover, Australia and New Zealand are currently hosting the 2023 Rugby Union World Cup, which could reduce the public appetite and enthusiasm for another rugby event 2 years later. Another challenge is the geographical distance and travel restrictions. Australia and New Zealand are far away from most of the other rugby league nations, especially those in Europe and Asia. This could increase the costs and difficulties for teams and fans to travel to the World Cup, especially amid the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and its variants. Australia and New Zealand have been praised for their strict border controls and quarantine measures to contain the virus, but this also means that they have limited international flights and visitors. It is uncertain whether they would be able to relax their rules and welcome large numbers of rugby league fans by 2025. A possible solution to these challenges is to delay the World Cup to 2026, which would give more time for planning, preparation and recovery from the pandemic. It would also avoid the clash with the cricket season and the Rugby Union World Cup, and allow for more flexibility in scheduling and broadcasting. However, this would also mean that the World Cup would be held 6 years after the previous one, instead of 4, which could affect the momentum and continuity of the sport. It would also require the agreement of all stakeholders, including the IRL, the national federations, the players, the sponsors, and the broadcasters. The IRL has said that it will consider all alternative hosting options and make a decision by July. It has also expressed its disappointment and respect for France's decision, and its hope to strengthen France as a rugby league nation in the future. New Zealand has already made a bid to co-host the World Cup with Australia, saying that it would be a great opportunity for Indigenous and Pacifica communities. Australia has not yet confirmed its interest or availability, but has said that France's withdrawal is disappointing. Other potential hosts could include England, which hosted the last World Cup successfully, or other countries with emerging rugby league markets, such as Canada or Papua New Guinea. The sudden withdrawal of France as the host of the 2025 Rugby League World Cup has left the international rugby league community in shock and uncertainty. The French government decided to pull out its financial support for the event, citing economic difficulties and a lack of viability. This means that a new host country or countries will have to be found, and soon. One of the possible options is a joint bid by Australia and New Zealand, who have successfully co-hosted the tournament in 2017, along with Papua New Guinea. However, this would likely require a delay to 2026, as the two nations are already preparing to host other major sporting events in 2025, such as the Women's Cricket World Cup and the FIFA Women's World Cup. The hosting change will have a significant impact on the 4 versions of the World Cup format: men's, women's, wheelchair, and youth. Each of these tournaments will have 16 teams competing for the trophy, making it the biggest rugby league event ever. The qualification process is already underway, with 9 teams already securing their spots: Australia, Samoa, England, New Zealand, Fiji, Lebanon, Tonga, Papua New Guinea and France. The remaining 7 places will be decided by regional championships and playoffs in Europe, Americas, Middle East, Africa and Asia Pacific. The hosting change could affect the scheduling and logistics of these qualifiers, as well as the travel arrangements and costs for the participating teams. Some teams may also face visa issues or quarantine requirements depending on the new host country's policies. The hosting change will also affect the fans of Rugby League, who may have to change their plans or cancel their bookings if they had intended to travel to France for the World Cup. The new host country will have to ensure that there are enough venues, accommodation and transport options for the expected influx of visitors. The new host country will also have to promote the event and generate interest and excitement among the local population, especially for the women's, wheelchair and youth tournaments, which may not have as much exposure or popularity as the men's tournament. The hosting change is a major setback for Rugby League in France, which had hoped to use the World Cup as a platform to showcase its talent and passion for the sport. France has a long history of rugby league dating back to 1934, and has produced some of the best players and teams in the world. France also has a strong presence in the wheelchair rugby league scene, having reached 3 consecutive finals. The World Cup would have been an opportunity to grow the game further in France and inspire a new generation of players and fans. However, despite this disappointment, Rugby League is not giving up on France. The International Rugby League, IRL, has expressed its support for France and its desire to host a future World Cup. The IRL has also said that it will accelerate its consideration of other contingency options and announce a new host country by July 2023. The IRL is confident that Rugby League will overcome this challenge and deliver a successful and memorable World Cup in 2025 or 2026.